All right, so you know how we're always digging into these interesting health topics? Well, today's deep dive is something I think we can all relate to. It's one of those things you face every time you go to the grocery store, pretty much.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
It's like, is organic food really worth the extra cost?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, is it really healthier?
Right.
We're going to try to get to the bottom of this. There was this fascinating article on newsmedical.net, and it turns out, surprise, surprise, it's not as simple as it sounds.
Not at all.
It's way more complicated than just organic equals healthy, right?
Right.
Okay, so think about it this way. You are at the store, like picture this. 2 apples in front of you. They look pretty much the same, but one has that little organic label, and suddenly it's like twice the price. So how do you choose? I mean, really, how do you decide if it's worth it?
Well, it's funny you should mention that because it's a question I get asked a lot these days. And it really speaks to, I think, a broader shift in how we view our food now.
Okay.
Think back, way back to the 20th century, the Green Revolution.
Right.
All about fertilizers, pesticides, really ramping up food production.
Yeah, we could feed the world. Or so we thought, right?
Exactly. And it seemed like a win. At the time, at least, we can feed more people than ever before.
Right.
But then, of course, then came the downsides.
Yeah, the not so great consequences.
Exactly. And the environmental impact. Wow, we're talking soil degradation, water pollution, all that stuff. And then, of course, the big question mark, are these pesticides harming us?
Right.
And that's really where organic farming emerged as this alternative, right? This idea that, hey, maybe this is better for the planet, maybe it's better for us. And you look around now, I mean, the organic food market it's exploding, which tells you people are really thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But does the science actually back it up?
Right.
Like, we're diving deep, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's start with the big one that's always on everyone's mind. Cancer.
Okay.
Does eating organic actually reduce your risk of getting cancer? I mean, that's kind of what we all want to know, right?
Right.
So there was this one study, they did it in France, and it found something pretty wild. People who were eating more organic foods, they had a 25% lower risk of developing any kind of cancer.
Wow.
And get this, they even saw reductions in specific types of cancer, like breast cancer and lymphoma.
That's significant.
That's huge. 25%, that's not nothing, right?
Yeah. No, that's a big difference for sure.
So, I mean, what do we make of that?
Well, here's where we have to be careful, right?
Yeah.
Because just because two things are linked, like eating organic and lower cancer rates, it doesn't automatically mean that one directly causes the other.
Oh, okay.
You see, it could be that people who choose organic foods, maybe they just tend to have other healthy habits as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right? Like they might exercise more, they might smoke less, things like that.
All connected.
Exactly.
So it's not as straightforward as like a simple equation.
Okay.
Organic food equals no cancer. It's more nuanced than that.
Precisely.
Okay. But then it gets even trickier.
Okay.
Because the article mentions another study, and this one was done in the UK, and they basically found zero link between eating organic and your overall cancer risk. The only thing they found was a slightly lower risk for this one specific type of lymphoma.
Interesting. So we've got conflicting results.
Yeah. And that seems to be a bit of a theme here, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing with research, right? Sometimes you get these studies that have totally different findings.
Right.
And it just means that we need more data, we need more research to really get the complete picture.
Right.
They even say in the article, like, we need more of those, those big long-term studies where you really try to control all these other factors.
Gold standard studies, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. See what's really going on.
Right, because there could be other things that are influencing these outcomes.
So the jury's still out on the whole cancer thing.
It seems that way.
Okay, well, let's move on from that kind of heavy topic. Let's talk about something a little lighter, like weight management.
Okay.
I mean, let's be honest, a lot of people, myself included, kind of hope that choosing organic might help them, shed a few pounds.
Sure.
So what's the research say about that?
Right, well, some of the research has actually found a link between eating more organic foods and having a lower BMI.
Really?
Yeah, and it's not just correlation we're talking about here.
There was this one study, it followed people over a few years.
Okay.
And the ones who ate organic foods more often, they actually had smaller increases in their BMI compared to those who didn't.
Wow, so it's not just about what you weigh at one point in time.
Right.
It's about how your weight changes over time.
Exactly.
Okay, so that sounds promising.
Yeah.
But is it really as simple as swapping out my regular potato chips for a bag of organic kale chips and poof, the white just magically disappeared?
Oh, I wish it were that easy.
Right.
It's probably not about just one specific food or ingredient, you know?
Right.
Remember those lifestyle factors we were talking about earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there might be something else going on here, what we call a halo effect.
A halo effect. What is that?
It's like, imagine this. You make this conscious effort to be healthier in one specific area of your life.
Okay.
And then it's like it kind of spills over, it influences other areas too.
Okay.
So if you're actively choosing organic foods, you might unconsciously start making other healthier choices without even realizing it.
Oh, interesting.
You're kind of in that mindset, you know?
So, like, I'm picturing myself at the grocery store, I'm loading up on organic strawberries, and suddenly I feel this urge to, like, sign up for a marathon or something.
Oh, right, exactly.
Ugh.
Exactly.
I get it. I get it.
It's a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It is. It is. And our minds are powerful.
Oh, incredibly powerful.
So, I mean, it makes sense that our beliefs about what we're eating could actually influence our overall behavior.
Absolutely. But like with everything else we've discussed, we need more research to really know for sure if this halo effect is a real thing.
Right, right. It's all about more data, more research.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered cancer, we've talked about weight management.
Right.
What about other aspects of health, like heart health, diabetes, things like that?
Right.
Does organic food have any impact there?
Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Oh, okay. All right, lay it on me.
All right, so one study found that people who frequently chose organic foods, they had a 35% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes.
35%. Wow.
That's pretty significant.
That's huge. Okay, so maybe there's something to this whole organic thing.
Well, and it's not just diabetes. Research has also suggested a potential connection between eating organic and lower rates of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and even heart disease.
Wow. So it's like a heart-healthy, diabetes-fighting superfood or something.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
It's important to remember that correlation does not equal causation.
Right. You made that very clear.
Right.
Correlation, not causation.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
It's possible that other factors are at play here, and we can't definitively say that organic food alone is responsible for these health outcomes.
Okay.
Again, more research is definitely needed to really understand the nuances here.
Right, right. But I gotta say, all this talk about potential benefits,
Yeah.
it's making me wanna, like ditch all the conventional stuff and just fill my grocery cart with nothing but organic produce.
I get it. I understand the feeling, but it's important to approach this with, a balanced perspective.
Okay, yeah.
This research is still evolving.
Yeah.
And we need more definitive answers before we, make any drastic changes to our diets.
Okay, that's fair, that's fair.
Yeah.
So far we've talked about cancer risk, weight management, heart health, diabetes.
Yeah.
But there's this one other big thing that I think about when I hear organic food. And it's kind of the elephant in the room,
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
pesticides.
Absolutely.
It's kind of a major concern for a lot of people who choose organic, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a
Yeah.
huge factor.
So what does the research actually tell us about pesticide levels in organic versus non-organic foods?
Well, studies have consistently shown that there are significantly lower pesticide residues in people who eat primarily organic foods.
Significantly lower, but like what does that actually mean in real world terms?
Okay, so one study found that people who ate mostly organic diets, they had a whopping 89% lower level of pesticide traces in their bodies.
89%? Are you serious?
Yeah, compared to those who, ate conventional.
Oh, that's a massive difference.
It is.
That's got to be good news,
I mean,
right?
it seems like it would be, right?
But what does it really mean for our health in the long run?
So see, that is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And unfortunately, we don't really have a clear answer yet.
Oh.
I mean, we know that really high levels of pesticide exposure, that's definitely harmful.
Right.
But these low-level exposures that, let's face it, we're all kind of subject to, the long-term effects of those are much, much less clear.
Oh, okay.
And much harder to study, honestly.
It's like we're all part of this giant long-term experiment and we have no idea what the outcome's going to be.
That's a really good way to put it. It's true. And it makes it really challenging to research because it's not like you can just easily isolate the effects of these low-level exposures over such a long period of time, decades.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So we need more research, we really do, to fully grasp how these tiny amounts of chemicals might be impacting our health over time.
Okay, so it's a bit unsettling, but it's the reality of the situation, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about cancer, weight, heart health, diabetes,
A
pesticides.
lot to unpack.
Is there anything else, like, what else should we know about potential benefits of organic foods? Did we miss anything?
Yeah, they mentioned this other interesting thing, like it wasn't all about the hard data, like the numbers.
Right.
There was this study where they found that 70% of people who, they eat organic, they said they just felt healthier overall.
Interesting.
They reported having more energy, better digestion. Some even said they felt like their immune system was stronger.
See, that's where things get really fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to consider, the power of the placebo effect.
Oh,
Like,
right.
if you believe that something is healthier for you.
You might actually start feeling better simply because of that belief.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how powerful our minds can be.
So are you saying that all these people who, like, swear by organic food are, like, imagining it?
No, no, not necessarily. It's definitely possible that there's more to it than just the placebo effect.
Okay.
I mean, think about it. Organic farming practices, they can sometimes lead to actual differences in nutrient content.
Oh, okay.
And there's still so much we don't know about the complex relationship between, what we eat and how we feel.
Right, right.
It's complicated.
Okay, so where does all of this leave us then?
Uh,
Is organic food like this magical cure-all that some people make it out to be?
Based on the research we've looked at,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. It seems like there might be some potential benefits to choosing organic.
Right. Okay.
But we need a lot more research, especially those, long-term controlled studies before we can say anything, for sure.
So it's not like a guaranteed ticket to perfect health.
No, definitely not. And that's a really important takeaway here.
Okay.
Choosing organic, it doesn't mean you can just ignore all the other aspects of a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, so you mean I can't just, like, eat my organic salad while I'm, like, secretly sneaking bites of donuts on the side?
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about balance, right?
Okay.
Organic foods, they can be a part of a healthy lifestyle for sure, but they're not a substitute for things like regular exercise, managing stress, getting enough sleep,
Right, right. It all matters.
It all ties together.
Okay, so we come back to that original question then, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that organic apple at the grocery store, is it really worth the extra cost?
Right. And that's a decision that, each person has to make for themselves
Right,
based on their own values, their budget, and what they know about the research.
right, right.
But here's something else to think about while you're, pondering that apple.
Okay.
The article, it focused mostly on how organic foods might impact our individual health.
Right,
Right?
right.
But what about the bigger picture?
Okay.
What about the impact of our food choices on the environment?
That's a good point.
Right. That's a whole other can of worms, or maybe we should say a whole other organic apple.
Right, right. It's bigger than just us.
Exactly. The
Ah.
impact of our food choices, it goes way beyond our own plates.
That's a great point. Something to think about, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes you stop and think, huh.
It does. It makes you realize how much we still don't know
Right, right,
and
exactly.
how complex this whole issue really is.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, talked about the potential benefits of organic, the research, the question of pesticides.
Right. We've been through the weeds a bit, so to speak.
And I think a lot of our listeners are probably wondering, okay, so what's the bottom line here?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, isn't it?
Is it worth it? Should we all be, like, emptying our wallets for that organic label?
Well, I wouldn't say there's a simple yes or no answer here, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's really about weighing the different factors.
Like what?
Well, we talked about the potential health benefits, right? But we also have to acknowledge that the research is still, it's still emerging.
Right, right. And there's a lot more research that needs to be done.
Exactly, especially those big long-term studies.
Right, the gold standard ones.
Yes, exactly. We need more of those to really get a clearer picture.
And we talked about pesticides, but you said we don't even know the long-term effects of all that yet.
Right. It's a big unknown, and it's something to consider for sure.
Okay, and then there's the whole environmental impact, which, whoa, that's a whole other conversation.
Right. That's a deep dive for another day.
Seriously, right.
But it's something to keep in mind because, our food choices, they don't just affect us.
Right, it's about the planet, too.
Exactly. It's about the bigger picture.
Okay, so, I mean, for people listening who are like, they're headed to the grocery store later and they're going to be standing there in the produce aisle trying to decide organic or not, what advice would you give them?
Well, I say the most important thing is to be informed, you know. Read up on the research, understand the different factors at play,
Right, right.
and then make the decision that feels right for you, for your own health, for your budget, and, for your own values.
Yeah, it's like a personal choice, really.
It really is. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here.
Okay, I like that. Make the choice that feels right for you.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Talk to your doctor, talk to a registered dietitian. Keep learning, keep exploring.
There you have it, folks. Another deep dive successfully navigated. Remember, the quest for knowledge never ends, so stay curious, and we'll catch you next time for another fascinating exploration of the world around us.